just seen a great session around messaging and the opportunities it can create as a communication tool. I'm Joanna Cox, General Manager of aimm, the Association for Interactive Media and Micropayments. We're a UK-based trade association, and our remit is to create the conditions for growth in micropayments. So obviously our interest has been piqued here by potential opportunities in the payment area. We are delighted to be part of this session with MEF. We've heard today that RCS and other messaging methods are the next step in the evolution of mobile messaging, with greater opportunity to increase consumer engagement. We know, of course, that carrier billing is a brilliant mobile payment service used by consumers to easily purchase digital content or use interactive services and charge them to their phone bill. With a combination of the two, a fabulous customer experience and payment journey is staring us in the face. So how could RCS exist with carrier billing? At aimm, our members are all about interactivity that leads towards a micropayment. So this is close to our hearts. To kick off this session, I'd love to introduce Nick Millward, VP for mGage. mGage have done absolutely tons of work in this space and have recently reached a really exciting time in the project life cycle. Nick Millward oversees commercial marketing and products across Europe, based in London. He has a strong background in technology, product and marketing within the digital and mobile ecosystem, currently active in educating those in the messaging ecosystem about the potential of RCS messaging. Nick will be talking us through their progress in making payments within messaging a reality before we go over to our panel. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you very much, Joanna, and hello everybody, and thanks for joining us today. As Joanna said, I head up the European business here at mGage. I think most of you will have heard of us in the industry. We're a mobile aggregator. I'm obviously based in the UK from my accent. We have business all across the globe. But let me just, as Joanna mentioned, let me just talk you through a few of the things that we've been working on in the RCS and mobile payments space. So hopefully you will be able to see my screen. So let me just start off with a couple of statistics. The first one is, and we've taken these from 3 different sources. They're not our own statistics, but things that we think are relevant to the conversation today. So 58%, more than half of consumers would stop a purchase if the checkout process is complicated. So consumers are looking for simplicity, number one. Number two, 81% of consumers said they would abandon a sale if they're pushed to a website they didn't recognize. So I think this is partly security and partly friction as well. So there is the element that people need to know where they're going and they want that experience to be made easy. The third area is really core to mobile. So you can see there in 2019, less than half people, or 45% of people for retail e-commerce sales were using mobile, so less than half. And we look at this year moving into next year, and actually my personal view is this should be probably bigger than this based on the current situation. But more people are on mobiles and more people are purchasing on mobiles. So that jumps in absolute terms by around about 8 and a bit percent. Comparison is around about 15% jump in 18 to 24 months. So the message here is simple, really, that people are moving more and more, and purchasing is moving more and more onto mobile. People want the security, people want less friction, and people want the simplicity. So this is what we've done, as Joanna introduced. We've put 2 existing products, if you like, together, or two existing solutions together. One is the mobile payment space, otherwise known as charge to bill or direct carrier billing or premium SMS. It's obviously naturally the ability for a consumer to purchase for goods through their mobile device and be charged for that on their mobile phone bill. And the second area is RCS. So obviously most of you will have been in various discussions today and yesterday around this on the MEF seminars. But what we're talking about here today is putting these two services together. So some of this will be known by you, but I think it's just worth framing this just to really show the power of putting these two solutions together. So what we see comparing to credit cards is around 7 times higher. I think we at mGage do see that probably decreasing a bit over time, because I think things like Apple Pay and the ability to pay for goods through your credit card on your mobile device is becoming a bit easier as the mobile technology improves. Secondly, the RCS engagement that we've seen through trials that we've done are roughly 14 times higher. So you kind of put these two things together and the potential is enormous in terms of engagement and in terms of additional higher sales through this payment channel. So really what you've got here then is a fast, seamless customer experience in one application. You're advertising to purchase. So what we're saying here really is you're closing the loop on this thing. You're using RCS as your advertising channel, and then you take it right through to the end point where the consumer in this particular use case is actually paying for something, and you close a sale. The other bits around obviously the power of RCS that we talk to brands and consumers about is two things in this example. Number one is the richness of content. Consumers are ready for this now. They're ready for that kind of WhatsApp experience when they're talking to the brands that they purchase from. And the other thing is security. Security is becoming a real important aspect of mobile, certainly payments, but mobile journeys and mobile experience. And this is what we get from RCS. We get those two things. We get the richness and we get the security element. And the final thing from a brand perspective is knowing what happens in this ecosystem. It's different to the world of SMS. Through RCS, we can see a lot more what happens. We can track people. We can see the engagement. We can see when people are opening things and reading things. So this really comes through within RCS. What I'm going to show you now is a couple of use cases. This one is one of our customers, Oxfam, and we've built a user flow here. This is one of the example flows that we have here. This hasn't actually launched yet. We're looking to launch this early next month, which is actually tomorrow. Not launching tomorrow, the month of October is tomorrow. But what it will show you is a short video with the experience through the RCS channel of donating. So if I just click on my play button, which has gone. So what we should start to see here is a donation. So through the RCS interface, you've got the carousel here with various options to donate. In this example, I've clicked on the £5 monthly donation. It's registering that I've clicked that button, that I'm interested in having a £5 monthly donation with Oxfam. And then what we'll see is the authentication or the validation. And in this particular example, it's through SMS. So we sent an SMS with a unique code to validate the user. The user inputs a 4-digit code in this example. We've also got an example with PIN capture as well. PIN capture is the other option for using this. And then beyond putting the validation code in, we then ask for a final confirmation, which will come up in a second on the screen. So it's then asking the user, just that you can see in here on these rich cards, you can see that there's other options to cancel through at various points in the journey. You can look at the terms and conditions. So on here, we confirmed the £5 per month. The technology in the back end is still connected to premium rate SMS or DCB. So we'll still, for now, send the text message, which will be an MT type payment on premium rate SMS. but we'll also confirm the donation subscription here as well. So you can see that we've had a successful donation of £5 per month, and there's other options in there. We can cancel the subscription. We can go to a gift aid donation page, which is important for charities as well. And there's other various options. So again, what we've spent a lot of time on is really kind of working on this with the regulators, working very closely with all the operators. This is primarily right now for the UK market. And we've had, in essence, agreements on how the flow should look through RCS. So very, very exciting times for us to be able to show you this now. This is another one that hasn't been fully launched yet, and we've debranded it, if that is an actual word, debranding. We've taken out the customer in here for obvious reasons, where they didn't want us to be able to go and talk to everybody about this right now. But this is a media company, and the example here is that there's add-on offers. So I'll just show you the flow through another video. And this is through the RCS capability. I'm looking at offers for me. There's other things that I could press in there. We've got the carousel with various different options. But what I'm going to add on to my existing subscription is the movie package. And in this particular example, I've chosen unlimited movies for £10.99 a month. There's a double opt-in flow where I click on that again to add that to my subscription. And then I've subscribed for £10 per month. In this example, you would get various codes that are sent through to you. This is also showing a PIN flow to again authenticate the user. There's different for different types of flows. We'll probably put the authentication, the validation in different points. And in this example, we've got the movies. So some of you with kind of media subscriptions already will probably be familiar with this through the application. But you can see there through RCS, what we've agreed with a media company is that the two can work hand in hand. So we can push people off to the app, they can advertise to the app, or we can push them through RCS as another channel. So really excited about this one, looking to launch that with our media partner as well next month. And then just to finish off then, just ahead of the panel session, I think we may have some time for questions at the end, but just to summarize really, we believe that this is an innovative solution. It's a new opportunity. We're bringing the payments carry billing area together with, if you like, the marketing platform, which is RCS in the examples I've shown. It's compliant. We've spoken to the payphone, the PSA, Payphone Services Authority, and we've agreed that the flows are compliant. Similar thing with the operators. We'll need to do another run through of this prior to launch. The engagement rates as well, just to remind you, this is why it's so important that the engagement rates are so much higher through these channels, and we put these together and we've got a really powerful mechanism here. And then finally, we believe from an mGage perspective, just banging our own drum, it is a unique solution right now. But obviously, it isn't locked down to only mGage. It's that we've kind of spent a lot of time and effort on putting this together with our efforts both on the premium market and RCS, and we've put these two things together and looking forward to launching in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So I think at this stage I will hand back to Joanna.
Thank you very much, Nick. Well, you have been busy. Thank you for a really interesting presentation. I'd really like to hand over, we've just got a couple of minutes, the audience, on any questions, and I can see one here from Daniel. Does your solution support recurring subscriptions? And how is your flow reducing subscription purchase friction?
Yeah, so there's two things there. The first one is yes, it supports subscriptions. In the Oxfam example, it's not classed as a kind of pure play subscription. It's a recurring donation, but yes, subscriptions are part of this. And how is the flow reducing the friction? Well, the only friction really is that you'll be using the RCS almost like a banner ad. That's how I see it. So, you know, almost the banner ad or the advertising message goes out through the RCS channel like you would probably do today. Some of our content partners on SMS, but instead of that then going to another screen, and you know, a mobile browser, it will all stay within the one application. So the whole thing should just flow in the one application. And we believe, you know, from the research that we've done, if you're moving people between different applications, they start to doubt some of the authenticity of it. You see big dropout rates. So by keeping it all in the same application, you've got the simplicity, you've got the lower friction, you kind of tick the box with the authentication and the validation and the security of it, and you're keeping it all on mobile as well. So hopefully that answers the question.
That makes sense. Thanks, Nick. And just another quick one. Can you confirm where the solution is available? Is it just the UK?
Well, we work in various markets in Europe with premium and outside of Europe. But for now, we've really just tried to focus this on the UK market because it is, I think, as GSMA would say, it's a gold country. We've got all the operators live. So that's where we focus right now. So we haven't looked beyond the UK borders right now. But I think the use cases, the examples that we've demonstrated there could apply to any country.
Okay, thank you. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time because to complement what we've just seen from Nick and from mGage, we have put together a fabulous panel for you today to talk further about the aspirations and opportunities of placing payments within messaging. Moderating the panel and hopefully appearing shortly is Paul Skeldon. He's a freelance telecoms journalist and author specialising in mobile. He's been managing editor of TelemediaNews.com, the leading news service for the value-added telecoms market globally since the 1990s, and he's editor of mRetailing. So I'm going to hand over to Paul and our panel. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Nick.
Hello, and thank you very much, Joanna. That was really interesting, Nick. Thanks for that. We'll be addressing some more questions to you as we go along. We have assembled a great panel. I'll just run through quickly who they are. We have Peter Mossman, Director of Production and Strategy at ITV Interactive. Peter Garside, Head of Charge to Bill at EE. Andy Jones, Business Development at Mobilesquared. And Nick, who you've just met from mGage. Before we get into discussing this, we're going to just have a short presentation from Pete from ITV, who's going to look at what they're doing around this. So, Pete, if I'll just hand over to you to do your brief presentation, and then we'll get stuck into really discussing how this all works and where it's going in the future. So, Peter, over to you.
Thanks, Paul.
Mr. Mossman, I think, to save confusion with Mr. Garside, who is the other Peter.
It would have been a right mess otherwise. Right, okay, I'm going to share my screen. Just hope you can see that. All good. So, my name's Peter Mossman. I head up the production and strategic delivery for ITV's interactive team. And about 2 years ago, we launched online, in fact, no, sorry, more than that, it's only 4 years ago. We launched an online presence for our competitions that we run at ITV, which we've been running for several years. So that now is the consumer-facing brand of ITV Win. So we've been playing around with RCS under the ITV Win experience to have a look at how we can improve our already quite successful SMS marketing campaigns. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a journey of what we've done with some sort of stats and facts, and we'll sort of work through those. Just to be clear also, we've been working with open market on this through our SMS partners. who've been great at kind of helping us sort of move through the journey, because actually it's not BAU for us this yet, and it's something that we've been sort of very strong supporter of, but it's something which we have been supported quite extensively by open market to help us and move these campaigns through. So if I can just, why is it not moving on? Oh, for some reason it is not presenting. Bear with me 1 second. There you go. Right. So the first campaign that we launched was literally a technical test to see, it's right back in 2018, to just see how we could actually technically get content onto the platform, what format it needed to be, how we could use the video content to make it fit properly. And we ran pretty much a standard text message with video. This was entirely a technical test. We didn't really look at numbers. It was a very small send. But it got us off the sort of ground just to sort of say, okay, right, technically we understand how to get this away. And we successfully launched that and had a little video which supported the competition that were running. As you can see, that was £50,000 on a holiday home. We then moved on to actually starting to look at real life campaigns to see whether we could actually drive any change in behaviour and understand change in behaviour. And it's been a bit of a journey, because actually there's not been any real consistency, and it's interesting. So these are the two big formats that we run. We've got on the left hand side, you've got This Morning, and we've run a campaign. You can see it's pretty basic, but it's just using RCS as a more visually deliverable version of our normal text promotions. And on the right hand side, you've got Good Morning Britain. Now if you look at the data, obviously we started small on the one on the left hand side. And you can see there with the number of attempts and how much we converted, and then you can look at the paid response. So unique response rate, that is actually people responding by payment, and this is using PSMS as a payment platform. So SMS on the first one still outperformed RCS, but it was a small sample, so we then went to a bigger sample, and then you can see we had a much bigger increase in the number of respondees, which was really promising. It was a good test, and we did a few more of those, and again it really moved around. Interestingly, the SMS sample there was quite small, and also the other thing that's kind of curious is that 10% of the customers ended up using the SMS platform after having used RCS for follow-on entries. So it's a kind of weird, it's something to learn from that, I think, where people are still not necessarily seeing the individual platforms. We then went on to look at sort of a slightly richer experience with carousels, etc. Again, this is a technical test to see how this works. Similar response rates, RCS slightly down actually. This was a big campaign, one of our big Christmas campaigns, does very well for us. And not a massive difference in response rates. Those sort of paid response rates they're good, they're solid, but nothing that kind of really makes it kind of say, okay. But I think one thing that's important for us to point out is that we have very strong response rates in our SMS marketing already. So, I know people have sort of batted around ideas of the 5-fold, 10-fold, 15-fold, 20-fold increase in response. We already can get 30% in some of our campaign responses. So, going up is going to be a lot harder. It's going to be small incremental. What I think we're learning from this, though, is that it's taken a little while for our users to kind of get used to it. I think some of them were a little bit, first thing, a bit shocked about, well, what's this? ITV never sent me this before. This is not what I normally get. So it's interesting, but all good stuff, and all from a brand point of view, a far better experience. So then we started playing around with how else we could ask people to enter. So this is an interesting one. We integrated PayPal, not directly, but we integrated it via a direct integration with our website. So this was sent to basically pre-selected customers who were existing online customers. So these are people who are already registered with ITV Win. They're already registered with their PayPal details. So what we did was we basically sent them a promotional marketing message to say, do you want to enter this competition? And these people would have traditionally have responded via SMS, or we would have sent them a link back to the website. And then we asked whether they were obviously wanted to enter via this method. And we went through and we effectively surfaced their payment options as they would see on the website. And then when they made their selection, we basically showed them that we had their PayPal details already, and are they happy to charge their PayPal details. Now, statistically, as you see on the right-hand side, didn't look like a great success. And actually a little bit disappointing, I'll be brutally honest with you. But at the same time, if you look at that flow, we were a little bit deaf by compliance, to be fair. It became quite a heavy process to go through. And yeah, you've got multiple confirmations, and there was a lot of paranoia around you. Do people really know they're going to be charged? It's that classic thing we've seen in all payment flows over the years. But we're going to retry it. We're going to have a look at it again, see whether there's a way we can reposition it. And again, I think if people see it more regularly, they may well become more comfortable with it. But also, I think there's also a question about whether we should be asking people how they want to pay. This was just really saying, well, we know you can pay this way, so go for it. And yeah, so there's lots of things in there. Good learnings. Really good to see that we integrated a third-party platform straight into the flow of RCS. That was great, and it wasn't overly painful, but all good stuff. And then where we've also moved on to is much more promotional campaigns now, and these are proving to be quite good actually. This is just sending, we're sending free credits to use the website, and we send a little animated GIF type thing like this, and actually the claim rates on those are good, and actually they've increased as well since this. So really good experience, and I think this for us starts to see if we can drive those kind of increases. And say our response rates are pretty good anyway in a lot of cases. So it's our sort of increases are probably not going to be quite as dramatic as maybe a brand that's got less engagement and maybe moves it from a very, very low percentage up to sort of, you know, something a bit more respectable kind of thing. So I think for us, it's still exciting. And the next thing we're looking at doing is looking at how the platform alongside the Apple Business Messaging platform can be used for other interaction formats as well. So that's me. That's my short presentation.
Marvellous. Very interesting. Some great stuff going on there. I think before we get into having the discussion about this, we're going to throw up a poll for you, our lovely audience, to fill in, which we shall come back to towards the end of our discussion to assess what people's views are. So the poll should be appearing anytime now, hopefully. So if we can get the poll up, that would be good. Essentially, we need to ask all you lovely people, are you looking to integrate payments within mobile messaging in the next 1 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months, or 24 plus months, or have no plans currently at all, or any of that? So let's, hopefully that's up and running, and we shall move forwards with the discussion. So I think I want to sort of break this down a bit into sort of the interested parties really in the sort of messaging and payments in messaging paradigm really, to look at what sort of businesses want from it, what consumers might want from it, and what some of the sort of pain points therein are, as well as then sort of how it works in practice from a carrier and aggregator point of view. And then based on our findings from our poll, we'll look at the sort of future as we move forwards with this. So I think staying with you, Peach from ITV, clearly there's a sort of business case for this with RCS, but I mean, how important is sort of like mobile messaging really to a company like ITV as part of your marketing? Is it something that's increasing, and has that sort of been driven up during the sort of lockdown time?
Yeah, it's interesting. So SMS marketing, as it is for us as the interactive team, obviously a large part of our paid response to broadcast TV comes from SMS. That's it's the biggest platform. We've grown an online experience because we are trying to build a model where we're not as reliant on broadcast to always drive our activity. We want to sort of create a destination experience as well. SMS marketing has become as you know, viewing ship on it's no sort of secret that TV viewing has declined over the years, and obviously is pretty stable at the moment, but it's, and actually in lockdown has done very, very well, but it has, you know, it's a projection that it's going pretty much one way, and so we were looking at it and saying, okay, well, how do we defend against that? And actually, about a few years ago, we actually started doing outbound SMS marketing, which we hadn't ever really done before. And we were then seeing a massive upside on that, and it was working really, really well for us. So we end up tend to do our marketing at the end of an online broadcast campaign. We tend to send a push to people who haven't yet entered. So people who may traditionally we know are someone who would enter. And we can see right towards the end of the campaign, well, they haven't done it yet, so we'll push them and nudge them to see if they're willing to. Now that's worked really well, and we've seen in certain groups, in our sort of high-end users, we can get 30-40% response rate against that, and that's a paid response from that marketing campaign. So it's phenomenal. Average 12-13 across the whole kind of population, so it's really still really healthy. But we're in a very unique position. So when RCS was presented to us, one of our biggest challenges with marketing, with SMS marketing, is it works really, really well, but it's not a very brand experience. It's sort of functional, is probably the best way of putting it. It works, but it doesn't really open up any other communication to the user without it becoming a bit clunky, and it's not very imaginative. You talk to the marketing teams, they're a bit unexcited by it. Something like RCS is actually really, really key to actually evolving that into something a bit more exciting. And we're a great believer that, you know, simplicity is best in as much as the ability to get it. And RCS has been exciting with the fact that we will get to a point eventually where all of those phones in the Android world will be able to receive those messages, and it will become receiving stuff which is a bit richer and a bit more compelling, and also more timely. Is quite exciting, and it may well be, you know, that it sort of replaces some of the other digital platforms that we have that possibly a little bit more, you know, were great a few years ago, but maybe a bit becoming less interested by people. They're not as, you know, downloading apps is still there, and people do it at great numbers, but arguably there's a little bit of lethargy there. It's less exciting than it was.
Yeah,
really good.
Absolutely. So you did touch on this in your presentation. How do you sort of get over the sort of barrier of consumers going like, "What's this? You know, that's popped up on my phone." You know, particularly at the moment, while RCS is you know, outside of this little group.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're doing absolutely, and we're not doing a lot of campaigns, but we're trying to fit them in if our teams have got capacity and they're working with open market. You know, we are trying to do as many as we can within the realms of not breaking the team and trying to do too much. So we're trying to get it to be closer to a BAU type thing. So every SMS campaign, we want to get to the point that we do send out an equivalent RCS of some sort that kind of supports it, just so we can start getting that familiarity out to people. And it will only become used and comfortable by us continuing to use it. And I think there's enough positivity in what we've done that I think my comfort of using it as a tool, as a platform, is there. I mean, we're happy to. There's lots of operational challenges. There's lots of sort of, you know, in reality, it's not quite a productized thing yet. It's not quite as sort of easy. Like, we can set up an SMS campaign with eyes shut on systems, and it's all self-serve and it's great. We're not there yet, quite in that same level. But we'll get there. And when that tipping point comes across, it will become a much more engaging and much more, you know, people will expect something of a bit more than just a bit of text, right? They'll expect something that stimulates them a bit more.
I think so, absolutely. I mean, it already looks sort of like the kind of thing you're increasingly used to through apps and other engagements. So yeah, and I think sort of with more people being digital, thanks to the lockdown, it's you know, probably going to give it a shoe in. Just to stay with you, just briefly before we bring in some of the other panelists, the payment side of it. You've tried it with carrier billing. You've tried it with PayPal.
We haven't done carrier billing yet. We haven't done carrier billing.
Premium SMS.
Premium SMS, yeah.
I do apologise. Yes. You've tried it with Premium SMS and with PayPal. Is it sort of a plan to sort of integrate ideally as many different payment mechanisms as possible?
It's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because I think what we've learned with the PayPal flow, and actually workflows, and on my team, if you talk to my team, their feeling is possibly there's a bit too many steps, and I suppose, but then that's going to come down to the skill of the communication and us learning how we talk to customers and how that environment is done in a way that makes the journey not feel clunky, so that it's actually you're taking them through something which feels not like a real pain in the arse that you're taking ages to click through it. So that's something we've got to learn, and we haven't done enough yet to even get close to nailing that. So we've got to try more. We've got to play around with more. I think we for me, if I know what a customer's preferred payment route already is, then I would say, well, why wouldn't I just offer that as their first choice and then try to encourage them onto something different by incentivizing them? If there's a platform that makes me more money as a business, of course I want to get them on that platform, right? I want to get them the one that I get the best payout on. But of course, that's not always the easy journey, because customers, we know, like certain ways of paying. They get used to it. If you've got 3 or 4 years of using that platform without having any fraud risk or any feeling that you've been ripped off or any kind of negative things, you will want to continue to use that. So try and change that behavior onto something that they haven't used before, or they may have had a different experience on, or they also think of that payment mechanism for a certain purpose, if that makes sense. So, you know, people may have a relationship with PayPal where they know they're happy to use it for big purchases, but they've never used it for micro billing type purchases before. And in the same with direct carrier billing. You know, I don't personally think that direct carrier billing necessarily is ever going to go outside of small billing amounts, because nobody wants to get bill shock on their mobile bill. We've been told by the mobile networks for years that the mobile bill is always going to get cheaper, and you get sold on the fact that your mobile only costs you 15 quid a month, but then to load loads of costs into it is quite a shocking thing for a user. It's the same money going out, but it just goes out of a different account, and that may well be something that we need to think about. So I think we would always want to offer as many options to allow people to make those choices, but we would try to make sure that the one we know we've already got of them, we would kind of present, which is partly what the PayPal trial was about. And it's didn't necessarily stack up, but we need to play around with it and see whether there's an improvement we can make there.
Right, I'd like to bring in the other Peter at this point, Peter from EE.
Hi.
Hi. What's your views on this? Because obviously you're sort of advocating the sort of carrier billing angle. Is there a demand for RCS and carrier billing working together?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some great advantages with carrier billing that maybe you can't do on premium SMS, although that's not to say that premium SMS is a mechanism as it is. But I think RCS brings some additional benefits. So, for example, you could do a refund. So you could do an instant refund on carrier billing. So, for example, if somebody did want to change their mind, you give that option to the customer, which is more akin to maybe what they expect on a PayPal or a credit card flow. So that's great. Also for bill descriptions on people's bill, you can see exactly what you paid for. So it could, for example, say ITV win on your bill instead of a short code, which it says currently today. So there's a couple of things that you can do extra. But I think it's also about mixing up price points as well, because with carrier billing you can do different price points. So maybe you want to try a price point of £2.52. I don't know. Maybe that's a sweet spot, and that's something you can't do on premium SMS. So there are those advantages and there are those things, and I think that with that flexibility, it becomes a really powerful tool. RCS and carrier billing, together can work. But that's not to say that premium SMS can't work as well. I think it will. I think it does. It's just that there are a few more functionalities that you can gain out of carrier billing.
Okay, perfect. I mean, I think we'll come back to some of the operator role in this a bit further on in the discussion. But first of all, I want to just sort of throw it out there to the rest of our panel and to both Peters also. What about consumers? What sort of sort of is guiding you from the perspective of what consumers want from messaging, and particularly the ability to pay from in message for competitions or for anything else for that matter. What sort of is your feeling out there? I think if I put that first of all to Nick from mGage and then bring in some of the other panelists. Nick, what is your sort of like, what's the consumer side telling you?
So as I said, I think on page 2 on our slide, they want simplicity. I don't think they always know they want some simplicity, but they want it to be easy. As I say, I think there's more of an emergence over the last couple of years on security, because I think we're all hearing about various, you know, fraud, not just in mobile, but digital kind of marketing, really. So I think the security element, when you can, you know, within RCS, where you can verify the brand, which you can't do in SMS, you can't do in email. I think that there's a ton of value in that, and I think that is something that consumers are looking for more and more. And as we know as well, it's kind of just shifting to mobile. So I think those are the key ones. I think everybody seems to be, you know, a lot more, bit of a cliche, but time poor, right? I think it goes back to the simplicity thing. You don't want to try and figure out how to do this thing. You know, if it's just there for you to click a couple of buttons, but the key is as well to making sure that if they click a couple of buttons, they know that they've done that and they know they're going to get charged for it. I think that's always been the, you know, where we've run into issues in the whole kind of carrier billing and PSMS area. But I think through RCS, you can put a load of safeguards in around that. You can put a lot more content in there. I think, as Peter said in his presentation, maybe their first iteration of that, they went a bit too far and it confused things. But I think once we get that right, I think it would just be a much slicker, easier, secure channel. And that's what the consumers are asking for, from my perspective.
Great. Andy from Mobilesquared, what are your views? I mean, what sort of is your research showing about what consumers want from messaging and payments in messaging?
Well, let me start with a slightly different angle, because I suppose it depends what type of a consumer or customer you are. Whether you're a post-pay or a prepay customer has a lot of difference how you use your mobile credit to pay to enter a competition, or whether you allow that payment to be added to your bill to pay at a later date. Now, I think the economies and the global economies are a lot different. We see a lot more prepay in lots of countries around the world. So I think that's a factor into it. I think once you decide which demographic you're trying to attract for some kind of premium payment service, it's then giving that user the experience which sits within the confines of the device and the messaging platform they use, because we can't guarantee they're always going to be RCS, but we know that the Android base is higher in the prepay environment. So ideally for that we can look at that. Again, there's also strategies around, data rewards, so we can credit people with data for watching advertising. So that's another way of generating revenue. But when you come down to, to the scenario with ITV, really what you've got to try and do is make it engaging for the customer in a format they're used to, because they're typically used to say, you enter this competition, your text is going to cost you £1.50, you can enter as many times as you like. And as long as you can replicate that across other payment methods, so you can introduce PayPal has been done, or you can maybe think about direct carrier billing in those scenarios, you can then meet the customer on the terms that they're engaged to. RCS is a great platform. It will give you lots of options, but if you don't understand the options, then it becomes confusing. If you enter a competition, you simply put your text in, you're done, you paid your money, and you cross your fingers, you're hoping to win. But, giving that extra choice and, different payment methods at that time is maybe not the right way of injecting. So I think, from my point of view, different demographics in different countries will adopt, payments in different ways. I think there's confidence in the mobile device as a payments platform. I think the security and authentication services that work, within RCS and SMS, exactly what the customer or the consumer needs to ensure that they've got some recognition that they are paying this money. So I think, it's quite a difficult question to answer, but it's certainly going to be, what the opportunity to get to an app replacement scenario here. Stop directing people into the web to do those payment mechanisms and allow that transaction to be smooth and exciting through your messaging platform of choice.
Great stuff. I think this is to all of you. It sort of takes us into the sort of next area I wanted to cover about the sort of carrier point of view of this. But we have a question from Tim Green, who I think we need to get this out in the open and just deal with it. What about the 30% revenue share from payments inside apps, etc., from Google and Apple? Is that an issue? Whoever wants to take that first.
Well, I think that's a reality rather than an issue, and they're paying their part in the ecosystem for engaging that experience, for the customer, and potentially generating more revenue through an enhanced experience. And in a revenue share model, that comes as a cost. Whether the 30% is the right amount is the debatable thing.
Yes, it's a slightly different thing, though. I mean, you're not going to get hit with a Google and Apple 30% rev share in RCS, right? It's a separate thing. So, I mean, I think this actually means that if you can move your audience away from an app environment, an app store environment, and into an environment which you're in as a brand far more in control of, then you will be paying away revenue. And we can talk about the fact that direct carrier billing is one of the most expensive payment platforms, and actually as a brand is not very attractive when there are a multitude of other options out there. And I don't think there's not a compelling argument to say that it is far more, you're not going to get higher click-through rates necessarily. And so if it had so much more powerful, it would be easy decision, because it's, it's better to have that revenue than not have that revenue. But I think, from the 30% of out, this will directly impact the Google. Yes, this means you could take your brand experience away from the app world. And not now, but there's a lot of investment for a company to create a proper bot environment where you can take a user through a fully branded experience, offering really good content. And, that's a big ask, right? That's a big jump forward, because it's not just, the world of apps is very simple, because you just build it and deliver it, and then you have a content team behind it, and it's all got the kind of old school way of running things. You can't run a business with a messaging business, because you don't know what the question is before someone's come in. So you don't know what that person wants until they've got in there, right? So it's complicated. We're starting to look at the journey, not ITV, but it's a big ask to move into that world. It's exciting, and I think the gains could be huge if we get it right. But I don't think, so that really means that actually someone like Google, it's interesting that Google and Apple with these platforms may actually lose some App Store value. And then that asks the question of whether they will then step in and go, oh, just so that you're transacting in a platform we're supplying. Actually, how do we get part of this? So it's an interesting question.
Peter, Nick, other Peter, and Nick, any sort of comment on that?
I think this is all about growing the pie. Actually, I think this is an opportunity to, make more money for the ecosystem. I don't think there will be substitutions or movements that we were indicating. I think that RCS is a way to engage with customers. If you're already engaging with them over SMS, or you have the right to talk to them, then I think it's gonna grow that pie. So I don't necessarily think it's a relation to the Apple Store or Google Play. I think it's a totally different mechanism.
Great. Nick, anything to add?
From my perspective, I think we'll have to wait and see, really. I think I personally have made quite a few predictions the last 12, 18 months and haven't all quite happened for various reasons out of my control. But I think you kind of look at what's happened with cash over the last 6 months, and, you know, a bunch of friends and family, they don't even use their cards anymore. Everything's on kind of Apple Pay. There's no restrictions on there. It's easier. And as Peter says, yeah, from EE, that I think there is, you know, we can grow that if those other payment channels are reducing, and naturally others will compensate, I think. But again, I think we'll just have to wait and see. I do agree as well. I think there may always still be that role on the operator billing side, maybe for the smaller payments online, and then things like Apple Pay could, you know, and other channels might grow as well for the larger physical type goods. But let's see. I think, you know, what we're interested in doing is trying all different verticals, different types of payment methods. We're working with retailers, you know, looking at physical goods and all of that side of things. So, and I think ultimately, sorry if I'm rambling on too much, I think it's giving the consumer the choice at the end of the day, and it will naturally fit down a certain channel for a certain type of customer for a certain type of purchase. That's my opinion.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. We're pushed, well, not pushed for time, but time is marching along. I'm going to move the discussion on slightly. I think we need to sort of look briefly, at least, at the sort of technicalities of this, because I think there's probably people out there who buy into the idea, but want to know how you set it up, how it works. So I guess this is one for you, Peter from EE. How will RCS end user billing actually work technically, and what are the options? And are there sort of a whole set of different rules for operators and aggregators to work with under doing this? How complex is it going to be?
Yeah, so the way to view this is really premium SMS and direct carrier billing are two established payment methods that work well today. So the aggregator community, and we have 19 aggregators connected, you know, use this technology today. So that's great. What that means, though, is that the established APIs are already there. So the established business rules are already there. So what we're really establishing is that a kind of so a partner can just mix and match, like Nick said earlier, they can mix and match the payment models with the RCS. The RCS integration is obviously through BT, and again we use an aggregator model for that, so that would integrate into an aggregator. It's the aggregator's role to kind of take the various RCS direct connections from the operators. It's the aggregator's role to then take the premium SMS and direct carrier billing integrations. So it really is aggregating. You're aggregating premium SMS, direct carrier billing, and RCS to give the brands like ITV, you know, the products. And in terms of regulation, well, there's already pretty established regulation in place, and it's really just applying what's already there to RCS. So effectively, in practice, though, we have gone to the PSA, we have looked at our own rules, and we have looked at, you know, certain flows that I don't think went through with them because it is new. We're just you know, we want to make sure that it works well and there aren't any hiccups. But effectively, all of the regulation is already in place. I don't think there needs to be any more or additional regulation. I haven't seen the need for that. So I'm not going to put any in proactively, but we will review the flows as they come through. But, you know, I'm really excited about mixing premium SMS, carry billing, and RCS all together. I think, you know, it's a great feature there for, you know, some dynamic growth.
For sure, absolutely. Anyone else, anything to add on the sort of technical issues around it?
Well, we've gone through that process, so you know it is slightly different, but I think we're hooking into pre-existing APIs. We're, you know, some conversation with some of the operators has been, it shouldn't matter whether it's PSMS or carrier billing. It's a payment that goes onto your phone bill at the end of the day. So that's kind of how we're viewing it. We just need to make sure, and everybody in this space, we need to ensure that the thing remains compliant. And what we've seen working with the regulator in the UK, the PSA, there is flexibility there. You know, they are, you know, very reasonable around how we implement this through a brand new channel. I think we can go further with it, because I think it is a bit clunky in places, but I think we'll figure that out in the first kind of 3-6 months of properly launching different services.
Great stuff.
Technically fairly straightforward.
Excellent. Right, before we come to the results of our poll and use that to sort of wrap up our discussion with a little look at where some of this might be going, I'm going to throw in another question from the audience from our good friend Adam Maxted. Good question, actually. Are there examples of Google Pay being used in RCS yet for competition entries or charity donations?
So Google Pay, so ITV Win. So Google Pay is on our development roadmap for ITV Win as a whole. We have had some interesting challenges. Google have some, I don't know if anyone submits apps into the Google store. Their Google policies can be slightly bewildering and confusing sometimes. And so we've had a bit of negotiation. Unfortunately, competitions in the UK, as under UK law, don't necessarily fit very squarely with US law, and obviously Google Store is very much driven by US policy. So we're in continued discussions. So we would love to be able to do it, because I think it's a really simple and really logical. Especially if you're a high-end Android user that uses your phone in the same way that Apple users, you know, are sort of naturally probably more set up to use things like Apple Pay and stuff. I think the conversion rate's probably a little higher on Apple. So we'd love to, because I think we've seen really good conversion when we introduced Apple Pay into the payment flow of our services. It's been it's grown very quickly, which is good. And I can't imagine it'll be any different for Google Pay. So I think it should be, yeah. And certainly for charity, I can't see there would be any policy issues for charity donations. It's just someone's got to do it, I suppose.
Perfect. Excellent. Interesting. Right. So before we can sort of wrap up with a little look at where we're going in the future, the poll results are in. Interestingly, sort of about who's looking to integrate payments with mobile messaging in the next time periods. I don't know whether anyone would like to hazard a guess, but 40% of our audience who voted are going to do it within the next 1 to 6 months. Interestingly, and then it's 16% and 16% for the 6 to 24 month period. There are 28%, so just over a quarter, have no plans currently. So that's quite interesting. Anyone care to comment first of all on what those poll results sort of suggest? Andy?
I think they kind of suggest that people will maybe get in, you know, payments within an RCS session, i.e. using a credit card and you know, kind of premium rate services kind of slightly mixed up. I think, you know, the businesses that can use this format will certainly benefit from RCS. So if they're already running premium, you know, SMS engagement, then, you know, doing exactly what Peter's done at ITV is going to show them some interesting results. I think, you know, from a payments mechanism perspective, people will conclude business within RCS sessions. They will purchase, you know, using their preferred payment method of choice. But, you know, what we're discussing here is a very, very interesting topic, and potentially, you know, if it extended into other verticals which are regulated, could open up a huge opportunity for you know, for other sectors, which I won't mention because I'll get told off. But you know, certainly the opportunity to capitalise on this as a way of, you know, a way of even using your mobile device to buy premium content through direct carrier billing, and then using your mobile device to stream that in your home, I think is a huge opportunity. And we'll start to see, you know, that your device managing your content, and then you taking that content with you wherever you go. So how you pay for that, I think, you know, in the relation to your mobile provider you trust from a, you know, an operator point of view and from a payments point of view, the opportunity is huge.
Excellent. Nick, what are your views on the poll findings, and what's your view on where this is heading in those next 6 to 24 months?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's starting now. I think it was interesting. I think a report I saw from Mobilesquared, Andy and Nick Lane, was around the kind of concept of brands starting to think about this a bit like Twitter. I think the difference is there's a bit more probably of a cost involved with doing this. But I think what brands are doing now, and I think ITV are very, very unique in this, that they are kind of early adopters of this. But a lot of brands are looking at kind of growing the base now. They're starting small, they're starting to grow. So now's I think the right time to start introducing payments into this. And I'd like to have thought we were a bit slightly separate topic. I'd like to thought that we were further beyond the kind of 10-12% we're seeing in the UK, at least on device adoption by this time this year. But hopefully next year that will really start to ramp up. So I think right now is the right time to kind of start introducing this. And I think, to answer Adam's question, I haven't seen any payment options in RCS for Google Pay at all yet, but I think that's just a matter of time. And it's something we're discussing with Google as well.
Great stuff. And Peter from EE, what are your views on the poll results, and briefly your views on where we're going in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good. I mean, we've seen really good growth in premium SMS and carrier billing over the last few years, so that's great. And I really think though that RCS is going to supercharge this. I mean, we've got this fantastic mechanisms to engage with customers, and I'm really encouraged actually. 40% of people are going to integrate billing in their RCS. I mean, that's a huge amount really within the next 6 months. So I'm really encouraged by those results. So I'm really looking forward to RCS. I think it's going to be, a good growth factor for us over the next couple of years. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. And Pete from ITV?
Yeah, I think those percentages are quite encouraging. It's a small sample, but it's an encouragement that there's, they're actively thinking in quite a short time. I mean, you're either in the middle of projects starting this already, or you're sort of very optimistic. But hopefully, I think more people doing it is better for everybody, because it has to become something that users are seeing more regularly, being offered more regularly. I think going back to the comments around regulation and making sure it's consistent here, that is paramount here. We've got to make sure that we are all responsible with it, and we're not, because it is a fairly, I know there's processes in place, but as more people do it, the danger is that we slightly muddy the waters with lots of different experiences that users just think, I just don't know what is going on. This is not how I did it with brand X, and this is not how I did it with that brand, and I'm confused here. We will get some of that by nature of what we have here, because it's a powerful platform. There's an opportunity to really play in the platform. But I think if we all focus on making the experience sort of consumer focused as much as we can, and keep it simple, keep it direct, and serve what people want, then it's really encouraging. I mean, we've been looking at this now for 2.5 years for a reason, because we come from a pedigree of understanding how powerful that little inbox on your mobile phone is over all other communication types, and to have the power of this platform, and the same on the Apple side with the Apple Business Messaging, which hopefully maybe at one point in the future could also have RCS support, is hugely powerful for brands if you can get that right, But we've all got a responsibility to make it work properly and consistently, so that we don't scare everyone off.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, we've used up the allotted time, sadly, and we didn't even get to talk about payments in other messaging types. But I guess for the MEF, that could be the subject of another webinar. Thank you very much, guys, for taking part. Been really interesting, some really useful stuff. I think we've really kind of built on some of the more theoretical stuff about RCS and actually seen it in use. I think the idea of adding payments to messaging is an extremely powerful marketing device across all sectors. pioneered in charity and TV, obviously, but it's going to be everywhere. I think this is, it elevates sort of mobile marketing, particularly to a whole new sort of plane, and people interacting with their mobile in a totally different way with brands. Fascinating. So thanks again, guys. Thanks to the MEF for setting this up. Please stay tuned for the next session on Apple Business Chat, which will start in approximately 15 minutes. In the meantime, there'll be a short recharge meditation session just after this. So and thank you very much. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Thank you.